before I turned my mic on because I knew it would be explosive. All right, can everybody hear me now? Good. We haven't heard that one in a while, have we? Fantastic. So I get the post-lunch crowd while everybody's sinking into food coma. Awesome. Well, I am super excited to be here. Let's see if I can navigate. There we go. I should let you know before I begin, I know most of the speakers that have been up here today have had some background in talent acquisition or recruitment. Well, guess what? I have none. Big, fat, goose egg, zero experience. So I felt it was only fair that I did a bit of research in advance, hop on the Google, actually spoke with one of your fellow teammates, and get a little bit more information about what it's like to be a recruiter. And kind of get familiar. Woo! Oh, whoa. Sorry. Making sure y'all are still awake. And get familiar with the terms that you use on a day-to-day basis. Now here's the thing. There was this reoccurring term that kept popping up. And it's named after this spazzy little critter called
Squirrel.
The purple squirrel. Where did it go?
Purple squirrel.
Where did my purple squirrel go?
That's why he's not there.
Apparently. Are we having some technical difficulties? Okay. So, as I started to look with this purple squirrel, I noticed that it was really difficult, if not impossible, to find, right? Now, I'm not here today to tell you how to do your jobs, but I do feel like you're making it a little more difficult than it needs to be. Oh yeah, all right. Let me actually, let's go around this way. Yeah, I don't wanna, okay. All right, so I would like you all to meet Violet. Violet is a purple squirrel, and I found her with one Google search and $6.89 on Amazon. I found your elusive purple squirrel. Now imagine what I can teach you in the next hour on a subject which I am well versed. Now, although I am not a recruiter and I have zero experience in talent acquisition, I was in a 4-year relationship with a recruiter who became head of talent acquisition for several companies. But I got to hear about all the excitement that comes with recruitment, as well as the challenges that recruiters face. But what position have you ever been in where you haven't experienced challenges? At least you're not this guy. But challenges are a part of life, are they not? Yeah. And I feel like if we didn't have challenges in our life, then we wouldn't appreciate when we reach that goal and find success in what we do. Speaking of challenges, last year was a difficult time for my fiance and I. He was just laid off 1 month before the holidays. So right around this time last year. Now, he's a IT developer, and his boss told him, don't worry, you'll have no problem finding a job. 3 months went by. Nothing. I'm getting concerned. So I recommended that he seek out an IT recruiter. It was the best thing that we could have chose to do, because maybe this is standard procedure, but this recruiter worked with him every week, helping him build his resume, giving him pointers for interviews, letting him know what was in the pipeline, telling him what the hiring managers thought of him, giving him feedback. And To people on the outside, that means the world to us when you communicate that, even if it is standard procedure for you. And it gave us hope that he was going to place Alex. We had no question about it. And sure enough, the position that Alex is in today is all thanks to someone like you. So just think about that. We all experience major life events. Buying a new home, getting married, having kids, and getting a new job is one of them. And you are a part of that experience in somebody's life. Now, granted, some people go through jobs like they're sampling candy, but it's still a new chapter in that person's life, and you are a part of that. You have a major impact on that person's life, and not just the person that you are onboarding, but also the hiring manager that you potentially work with, and every single person that is going to come in contact with that new hire on a day-to-day basis. You also affect your organization. You can increase the earnings for your organization, or maybe you're just adding a new addition to the culture. Everything you do sets into motion a chain reaction, a domino effect. I feel like I have really weak thumbs because there we go. So you set into motion this chain reaction, and we're not always aware of the outcome of that chain reaction. For example, one domino is about yay big, right? One domino can knock over something 1.5 times its size. Has anyone ever read the book, The One Thing? Okay. By the time you get to the 57th domino, that one domino can set into motion a chain reaction that can knock over something from the distance from here to the moon. I just want you to think about that ripple effect. Do you want to set into motion a positive reaction or a negative reaction? Because it can go either way. Do you want to set into motion a positive reaction? Raise your hand. I'm checking for people who aren't raising their hand because, all right. And do you feel like you should equip yourself with the necessary skills to better your chances of triggering that positive reaction? You can say, I can't really see you. I took my glasses off, so auditory, yes or no? Well, thank you. The most important skill for you to master as a recruiter is the ability to form consistent relationships. And I say consistent because it's not when you click with this person and you just naturally jive with them. It's not when you're having a good day and woke up on the right side of the bed and you're like, I just want to make some connections today. No, forming consistent relationships, trying to understand everyone regardless of whether you may have the same ideas, beliefs, or strategies, but it's working together. I understand there's different types of recruiters in this room. So frontline, which is more data-driven, is that right? And then maybe more professional, where you work more one-on-one with a hiring manager. Now, I'm not going to try to understand all that. But what I do understand is you do have one common goal. And that is to form or have a win-win outcome. How do you have a win-win outcome? You might say, well, they give me a laundry list of requirements, and there's just no way that we can meet that, especially with the budget that they're giving us. Aren't you impressed? Yes. It's not necessarily about checking everything on that list. It's the fact that they know that you understand their needs. You feel like they get you and respect you as an equal partner, not just somebody taking their order. That's where the win-win comes in. is when you have that mutual respect and understanding for one another. And that all comes with building relationships. But here's the issue. Deloitte's study asked recruiters, how confident are you in understanding the job that you are hiring for? 80% said that they were confident. That's not the problem. The problem comes when they ask the hiring managers, how confident are you that the recruiter understands the job that they are hiring for? Only 39% of the hiring managers believed that the recruiter they were working with was able to understand the job that they were hiring for. Now, is this saying that the recruiter was wrong in assessing their ability? Not necessarily. Doesn't mean that they were right in assessing their ability. Not necessarily. So what does it mean? If they're not right or wrong, well, the thing is we don't know. What we do know is that there is a major disconnect. Major disconnect. It is crucial for us to be on the same page. When we are not on the same page, innocent misinterpretations can affect trust. And trust is the foundation for building genuine relationships. We all have different types of relationships. We have relationships with our family, our kids, peers, coworkers, and you manage those relationships differently. As far as a professional relationship goes, it's not enough to have a good relationship. You have to have an effective relationship. There has to be that trust. How many of you have a friend that you've known for years and you've had your falling outs, but you could never see your life without them in it? Why? Is it because you trust them? You know that they are more than the situations and the emotions that they present? It's an effective relationship. And when you deal with coworkers and people on a professional level, it's not just going to grab that drink after work to get to know each other better and build camaraderie. It's not going and playing a game of golf on the weekends. It's about making sure that even in the difficult times, when things are challenging and they've got pressure coming down on top of them, that they know that you are there to back them up. And you are an equal partner in helping them. And in turn, they will help you. I have weak thumbs. Why am I the only one having issues? All right. So today, I want to take you from motivation, I love this, to transformation. My hope is that you don't just take away information, that you actually are eager to apply it. Tell me, what good is information without application? Nothing. It is absolutely nothing if you don't apply it. I have watched so many TED Talks. I've been to see speakers that were phenomenal. And I left feeling energized and motivated, and I'm like, I'm going to change the world. I am going to leave here and change the world. Just watch me. And then that feeling, after a few hours, after a day, just dissipated. Have you felt that way before? Yeah. Because we didn't apply it, and it wears off fast. So I ask you today, I challenge you to find something from this conference and apply it today. I mean, I'm speaking on communication, and you have plenty of people to communicate with. So apply it. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. So let's look at what is the purpose of communicating. Why do we communicate? We communicate our feelings, needs, information, love, and to build camaraderie. This is why we communicate. How does it make us feel when we communicate? How do you feel when you're the one communicating? Now let me clarify. I'm not talking when you're in a back and forth with somebody. I'm talking about when you are the sole person communicating one of these things to someone else. How does it make you feel? You can shout out words. That's fine. I heard good. Did I hear good?
Yeah.
Good. Relief. Hence why we need to vent sometimes, because communicating should make us feel good. Why do we have those negative emotions then, like anger and sadness and frustration? It's because we don't feel like these are being heard. We don't feel like we're being understood. We don't feel like our needs are being met. That is why we have negative feelings when it comes to communication. It's not the communication that's negative. It's that we don't feel like we're being understood. We don't feel like our needs are being met. So there's 3 forms of communication. I'm going to fly through these because I'm sure you're all familiar with them. We have verbal, nonverbal, and visual. But there's a couple that I just wanted to go over because I get a lot of questions about it. Eye gaze. I get a lot of questions about, well, should I look somebody in the eye all the time? For me personally, I always look up when I'm thinking, and I don't always have that eye contact. In fact, if I try to talk to you and look at you the whole time, I'll probably forget what I'm saying. And does it make you feel really uncomfortable when I'm just staring at you like this? So for me, I don't have like laser beam eye contact when I speak with people. And there's also this thing called the third eye. Have you heard of the third eye? Where you look right here. Now, what if they have a boil or maybe something like this right here? Then it may be a little awkward for you to look at it, but just, you don't have to look straight into their eyes. You can look somewhere else and they can't tell the difference. But I would say whenever that person is communicating to you, it is more important for you to have that eye contact with them, because that lets them know that you're present. It lets them know that you are understanding and you are hearing what they're saying. It's, yeah, I hear you, but also the eye contact, not just looking over their shoulder or checking your phone. Colors. Colors communicate stuff, right? When I say red, what do you think of? Angry? Stop. Maybe stop. Okay. Hot. Yeah, so colors can communicate. And so paralinguistics is when it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. It's the tone in your voice. It's the body language. Is it congruent? We're going to move on. And then there's avenues for communication. And like I said, these are pretty self-explanatory. You use these every single day. But here's the thing. Nowadays, with technology, you can incorporate and intermingle so many forms of communication into one message. Think about social media. You can have text, videos, pictures, audio, emojis, all of that in one message. And the great thing about that, it eliminates a lot of ambiguity that is found whenever you just send a text message with no emojis or an email, because things get lost in translation sometimes. We are more connected than we've ever been before. We can connect with millions of people all over the world within a matter of seconds. But paradoxically, we are more disconnected than we've ever been before. Why is that? I feel like we're losing that genuine human connection. We're not seeing each other necessarily face to face. We have that distance, and sometimes we say things without thinking that there's a real person on the other side of that message. See, this is what I think has happened. I think our evolution and our adaptability are out of sync. Because not too long ago, we were unfamiliar with the tribe down the street. Nowadays, you go to a city and it's full of people from hundreds of different backgrounds with different beliefs and values. And our brains don't know what to think because not too long ago, thousands of years ago, which really, in the grand scheme of things, is not very long, anyone outside of that group we saw as a threat, because identifying with a group kept us safe. It was key to our survival. We have the ability to fix this lag in human evolution, but we have to have a conscious mind when it comes to that. We have to make an effort to do that. And it starts with the three components of communication, and that is think, listen, and communicate. So why think first? It's important to think first because it starts with your mindset. It starts with self-awareness. If you don't go into a conversation in the right state of mind, and that being an open mind, then you're going to bring all your perspectives and your beliefs to the table and potentially be more closed off to what the other person has to say. There may be better strategies than what you're aware of, but you have to go into it with that open mind and being self-aware of your beliefs. So self-awareness is having a clear perception of your personality, including your strengths, weaknesses, thoughts, beliefs, motivations, and emotions. How many of you have thought of something and you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot tell anybody I thought of that because they're going to think I'm a terrible person. It's like, no, that's not me. No. Yes, yes. And that's okay because we all do it. It's natural. It's natural. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but you shouldn't just sweep it under the rug and ignore it. You should ask yourself, why do I feel that way? What is the cause of that emotion or that feeling that if somebody else knew that I was thinking that would look at me like, right? That's all part of being self-aware. First off, I just have to say, I love how attentive this group is. After post-lunch, like, y'all are just like right at me. Self-awareness also, it allows you to understand other people's views of you. I would go out with my friends a few years ago, and I would always end up offending somebody. And it was never intentional. I had no clue what I was doing. And a couple people are like, you just can't say that. And I'm like, what did I say? And then they would tell me, I'm like, really? That's offensive? Yeah. So I had to become more self-aware. And it started with people telling me how I came across and really being more cognizant when I would go out and speak with people so I could correct that. The way we react to anything in life is a choice. Have you started to notice throughout this presentation that I'm hitting on stuff that other speakers today have kind of talked about? Like our choices, and I think the other ones are going to come later on, but you'll see. But the way we react to anything in life is a choice. Granted, some people say, well, what that person said made me angry. They didn't make you angry. You chose to react that way. Well, that would make anybody angry. Just because the majority of us would react the same way doesn't mean that we're all not choosing to make that same choice. Because I know plenty of people, well, I said plenty, I don't know plenty, I do know people who look at things completely different. And that's because they choose to not let things get to them. There's only one thing that can stop you though, and that is your ego. This is something Michael had mentioned earlier, is your ego can stop you. There is no room for your ego. The purpose of your ego is to make you feel content, to make you feel knowledgeable, but it's kind of just like a facade. It makes us feel good. It shields those negative emotions from us, but there is no purpose or room for an ego. I like to think of the ego as our child, and we are the parents. If you let it run around with no restrictions, it will wreak havoc and turmoil and cause destruction. But if you train it, if you discipline it, then you are in control. It doesn't control you. You have the control. It is important to take ownership for how you think, feel, and react, because if you don't, you're never going to move forward. You can never be open-minded. You can never start from the beginning. Everything is step by step, right? So if you don't take responsibility and you're justifying everything, finding an excuse for everything, then you'll never be able to be an effective communicator. You'll never be able to truly listen to somebody, because it starts with taking that ownership. Be mindful of your impact. See, now you're starting to see the similarities in some of the speeches. You have a major impact, not just on your organization, but on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes you don't realize that those little interactions between people on a day-to-day basis, what that can affect. And see value in what you do. Because if you don't see value in what you do, you will be of little or no value. Do you feel like that's true? Do you know people who have just kind of thrown in the towel? They don't see the purpose in their job. They don't see the impact that they make on a day-to-day basis. And it shows, does it not? And be curious. This is my favorite thing. Who thought it was the coolest thing to be a detective, or thought detectives were the coolest thing when they were a kid? Played Clue, watched Scooby-Doo. Yeah. Be a detective. I heard another speaker talk about this today. Like, I seriously was like, people are going to think that I'm like creating my slides in the back while these speakers are up here, because they're going over some things that I'm going to hit on. But be curious, ask questions, get to the bottom of things. Because if you just go into it and say, no, that's not it, well, this is what you're saying, you're not asking questions, you're not getting to the bottom of it. And that all comes with listening. So you bring that detective with you when you're listening to people. And you have to be present first. And I'm not talking about like physically here, because a lot of you aren't always physically present with the person that you're communicating with. So you have to let them know that you're there, whether that's summarizing what they're saying, reiterating things, asking for clarification. You have to be present. But most of us don't listen with the intent to understand. We listen with the intent to reply. I'm totally guilty of this, and I'm making it a conscious effort, and I've done so much better. But for the longest time, I thought that was the way that it worked. It's like you listen and then you respond. You listen and you respond. But I wasn't being 100% present, because the whole time I was thinking how what they were saying related to me, or how I would do it differently, so I was ready to like fire back with an answer. I see heads nodding. Yes? Okay. There we go. This was my go-to to help me. When you have the urge to respond, instead, reply with an insightful question. For it to be insightful, you have to be actively listening to what they're saying. Questions are your friend. Like, I love questions when it comes to communication, because it puts the focus on the person that you are listening to instead of on you. But it's still giving you that time to talk, right? Listeners are great, but the problem with using the term listener is I think of like auditory senses, and instead I like to use the term interpreter, because every single person in this room hears the exact same thing. All the words coming out of my mouth sound the same to everybody. But then when it gets up here, you interpret it in your own way, based off of your personal experiences and the way your mindset, the way you view things. So we have to be careful when we are interpreting information, because we may misinterpret. So that's why you have to ask for clarification and pay attention to what is not being said. as well as how it is being said. Because emotions can be loud while the message can be silent. Emotions can be loud while the message can be silent. Because that's usually what that's our go-to, right? If we're angry, you see the anger. And then the emotions cause you to say angry things. But then the underlying issue there, the underlying message, could be a cry for help. That's where you have to carry that detective over and really figure out what is being said here. What is the underlying message? There we go. Here's some things to look for. The tone of the person's voice, emphasis on what they're saying, and is their message congruent? So it's what they're saying syncing up with how it's being said. Is their body language saying one thing while their words are saying another thing? For example, I'm fine. If I said, I'm fine. I'm fine. Do you think I'm fine? No, really? Oh, dang, I'm not very convincing. I'm fine.
Okay, you're cool.
I'm fine. I'm really fine. I'm really fine. Is it congruent? This isn't a trick question, by the way. Don't feel like you're like, no. It's supposed to be, yes, congruent, because I'm like, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Now, what if I said, I'm fine? If you say that that's congruent, then you have a problem. We got some real problems, Michael, if they get these mixed up. So the first one, I'm fine. It's not really, there's no like crazy tonality. It's like, yeah, I'm fine. But if I'm like, I'm fine, then there's something more there. So ask for clarification. Well, you say you're fine, but your tone is saying something different. Let's look at emphasis. I didn't forget to reply. I didn't forget to reply. The emphasis is on the I. So what does that tell you? I didn't forget to reply. It means somebody else forgot to reply, but I didn't forget to reply. Now what if I move the emphasis on the word forget? I didn't forget to reply. I chose not to. I didn't forget. I just chose not to reply. So do you see how this, if this was texted to you or if this was sent through Skype or an email, you may not pick up on that. So that's why sometimes we need to ask for clarification. And finally, when you're listening, you need to be able to empathize with that person. And I don't mean just sympathize, oh, man, that sucks. I'm glad I'm not in your shoes. But really understanding if they have a demand on them, they have a strict timeline, be understanding of that. Like, yeah, it puts a lot of pressure on you as well, but when you're on the same page and you feel that same pressure, and you're more empathetic, then you're more eager to help them because you feel what they're feeling. You feel their pain. And finally, now you're the communicator. Now you're the one doing all the talking. But just because you have the talking shillelagh stick doesn't mean that it's all about you. Did you ever play that game in school where you had the stick and it's like now you can talk? But guess what? It's not about you when it comes to communication. It's still about the other person. When you're communicating, you're still trying to understand what the other person is communicating to you. And I would say, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but I would say that 70% of your conversation should be focused on them, at least. Now this isn't any like statistical research stuff. This is just my perception personally, so don't take it with a grain of salt. But it should be well over 50% about them when you're the one communicating. As a communicator, you should focus on eliminating ambiguity and being concise when delivering your message. Nobody likes a chatterbox. go on and on and on and on. It's like, okay, you said that same thing like 5 times in 5 different ways. Just think about it first and then say it. Also, eliminating ambiguity. Sometimes, even when we're constructing emails, we already have this vision in our head of what we want to say. But we don't always think the other person can't see inside my head. Technology hasn't got us that far yet, right? So make sure, reread your emails, reread your Skype messages before you send, and when you're on the phone or in person, it's okay to pause and think first before we speak. You will come across so much more just like intelligent, you've got your stuff together, whenever you just take the time to construct. And it literally only takes seconds longer. It may seem longer to you because you're the one taking that pause to think, but to the other person, it's just, a few seconds. Ensure the other person feels their message is understood. Acknowledge them. Never say, what you're saying is, no, because then you're telling them what they're saying. When you want them to feel understood, you say, so what I'm hearing is, because that's what you're hearing. They may be saying something completely different. So whenever you ask them, they say, okay, she's trying to understand me. They may need to re-clarify. They may need to reword that. But that lets you know that eventually you're going to get on the same page. Questions are powerful. Use them. I actually had a situation a few weeks ago where I only used questions to get to the bottom of something. It was actually a team member was on the phone, right? I was actually coaching somebody on this. They said, so we have this manager who likes to use colorful language whenever they're on conference calls. And they're up there, so I'm like nervous about addressing them. And I said, well, just ask them questions. First, ask them, whenever I hear you speak in your calls, it sounds like you're really passionate about what you do. Is that true? So it's a statement and a question, right? And then they're like, yes, I am very passionate about what I do. And I would imagine that you care what your peers think about you. Is that true? Yes, I do. Do you think using that type of language, how do you think that appears to your peers? Do you think that helps or hurts your image? I never really thought about it. I guess it hurts my image. That was the end of the conversation, period. 3 questions. Who came up with the conclusion to that? Who solved the problem? The other person solved their own problem. That's the most important thing. Let other people solve their problems. You are the guide. You are going to coach them through this. Questions are so powerful. And that's why I say at least 70% of your conversation, use questions. Never start a question with why, though. Why makes people defensive? Why did you do that? Instead, what was the process that you came up with that got you to this conclusion? Right? It's like, it makes them think. I will give you a list of questions after this conference. I will send Michael a link of some really great questions for you to use when you're communicating with people, because it makes a world of difference and it builds that trust and respect. You know why? Because their needs are being met. They feel like they're being understood. And that is the whole point of communication. It eliminates the anger, it eliminates the frustration, because their message is being heard. Doesn't it make you feel good when people understand you, when people listen to you, and they don't always have to solve your problems, but it's like, wow, Sometimes they don't have to say anything. It's just listening and acknowledging that they hear you. So now we're going to talk about ways to use different forms of communication. So in person, over the phone, and email. If at all possible, meet in person. If at all possible. I know for some of you that's extremely difficult, if not impossible, with some of the people you work with remotely. But if you have a critical conversation that evokes strong emotions, definitely want that in person. Who wants to be let go over the phone? Nobody. Who wants to be proposed to over the phone? Nobody. Whenever, I like how that one got the most reaction. Whenever you're forming new relationships or partnerships, take them out for coffee. Grab lunch, even video, Skype, do something like that, Zoom. Meet with that person face to face. It builds rapport, and it's amazing how much just a face-to-face interaction can build that bond. Even if you already know the person, to build a stronger bond, meet with them in person. So some of you are meeting each other for the first time, true? Okay. So when you fly back, and then you get on the phone with someone else in this room that you've never met before, that you've already talked to before, is it not going to feel different? Are you not going to feel more connected? Yeah. In person, I'm telling you, it works. Over the phone, when face-to-face is not an option, call somebody. Call and chat with them. And when you need information, rule of thumb for me is if you can't reply or come to a conclusion in an email with 3 emails, then you need to pick up the phone. And when I say 3 emails, that's not you sending 3 emails. That's send, receive, send. If it can't be done, pick up the phone. And for quick clarifications, there's no point in Skyping back and forth. Oh, they're away now. Must have went to lunch. Let me wait. Just pick up the phone. I'm a millennial, and I'm telling you, pick up the phone. An email, record of correspondence. I've been on the phone with people, and they're like, can you also just send me an email of what we just discussed so I have a record? Record of correspondence. Procedures, documents, instructions. If you're on the phone and they're like, I hope you got a pen and paper handy, get ready. Just send an email. A lot of these are just self-explanatory. Quick questions, like nothing urgent, don't need to get back to me right away, just shoot them a question. And for follow-ups, also lets them know it's not urgent, just, hey, I sent you an email, haven't heard back from you, just following up. All right, now, where am I with time? I can't really see. Where am I with time? 2:25? Okay, awesome. So I think I'm going to skip Q&A for a second. All right, if you do have questions, if we have time at the very end, we'll do it. But right now what I want you to do is try to apply what you've learned. Do you feel like you've learned a good bit? And don't say yes if you don't feel like you have. Awesome. Okay, that was kind of weak, but that's good. All right, I got some. So with the person beside of you, I wasn't sure how the setup was going to be. So with, I would say, no more than 3 people, I would stick with 2 if possible. Discuss a time when a conversation wasn't well received or things got lost in translation. I see people laughing. Do you already have something in mind? What form of communication was it? Was it through email? Was it in person, phone call, text message? Explain the misunderstanding, and knowing what you know now, how would you apply, think, listen, and communicate to resolve the issue? So what I want you to do is I'm going to give you 2.5 minutes for one person to talk to the other person, and then we're going to switch it, and then I want to give 2.5 minutes for the other person. So try to pair up if possible. Awesome. Well, y'all have been fantastic. I don't want to get you off your schedule even more than you already are. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, let me know.